Hey everyone, Nathan Galloway here with part 3 of our Unlocking Webex CCE with TTEC Digital. Today we're going to talk about filtering out UC overhead in Webex Contact Center Enterprise. Before we do that, just a quick reminder of who I am. I'm the Chief Architect at TTEC Digital's Cisco practice. So our topics for today are, I'm going to show you an architecture comparison. They look somewhat similar, but there's going to be some differences. So you'll see your architecture and my architecture, and hopefully get an understanding for how I've simplified things. And again, back to the concepts we've already been talking about. I want to spend more time doing things that create ROI for my business. I don't want to spend more time in technical endeavors that ultimately aren't necessary. So I'm sure to ruffle a few feathers with today's topic, but you may have a requirement for them, you may not. We'll see as we, and again, you'll make up your own mind, but I want to show you that there's a bit different of a way of thinking about this. And then I want to go through a demonstration. You'll see how the config that I use rarely causes me to log into a UC component. And then ultimately how we have taken control of that kind of outbound dialing or the routing of those, and with our scripting. And from there, we only have one way of dialing. We always know if it works or isn't going to work, regardless of where it's coming from. And again, it just puts us in control, and this is what modern contact centers do today. You just have other options on Cisco, and that's part of the problem. So I want to try and take away that option, and I'm calling that filtering out UC. So let's take a quick look in at what I suspect your architecture looks like today. Some key points here. You have your SBC sitting out here on the edge. That probably talks to CVP. It can also talk to your call manager. That could be dialer related. But you've got SIP trunks across the board here. Your call manager is interconnected with your enterprise UC. Because you're registering phones to it and treating it like UC today, you've got E911 requirements that you've probably got to comply with. So you got two separate E911 setups that you have to manage and maintain. And then you've got some stuff here for your presence and your Jabber stuff and your voicemail, and chances are you've got two separate ways of doing workforce optimization call recordings. You've probably got built-in bridge going from here to here, and over here you've probably got some sort of SIP-rec capability or XMF, but you've got something here, and then you've got dialer and callback stuff. And so we've got quite a number of lines. This should be, by the way, this should be pretty behind the scenes on Webex Contact Center. This is kind of more so the inner workings of the components and how they work. But the idea here is that you've got all these boxes that I've put in a different color, and if you could never have to see them, how much simpler would your life be? And part of that is here what you probably set up for on your premise, or maybe already on Webex Cloud. If you've got a bunch of different route patterns, list groups, partitions, CSSs, route points. Every time you want to add a new transfer destination, you have to go in here, register a route point. It's just a lot of overhead. And why are we doing that? 10 years ago, it made sense because we were, really our UC could be combined with our CC, but that's not the case. You're on a CC cloud, so we have to stop thinking like that. Likewise, you could do codec optimization and codec preferences. So if you were dialing out to a remote store and they had a dial-up connection, you could make sure that call landed at the agent as G720. Listen, those days are hopefully behind us. You may still find that you have those requirements, but chances are you don't, and that's what I see across most of the customer base. Lastly, again, I talk about everything just working. Click in here in my dial plan management box. Here I'm maintaining a dial plan. Here I'm maintaining a dial plan. Just had a customer the other day who needed to override the calling line ID on transfers to set it to the original ANI so this third-party IVR could pick up on that. Well, they're dialing out via the PBX. The PBX doesn't have that capability. Meanwhile, they never tested the routing whenever the IVR sends the call out. This is a contact center cloud, and somehow we're not putting the contact center in charge of delivering that call. So we've got to change that. So I think some pieces are overhead and just make things more complex. Other pieces I think I want to call them broken. And so again, we've got to get rid of these. And with any luck on Webex Contact Center Enterprise, you as the customer never have to log into any of these boxes that I've highlighted. You set them up, you leave them there, they get upgraded whenever a version needs upgraded, but you never have to deal with that. That's the goal here. So let me show you my architecture. There's a one-time configuration in Call Manager. This should be done for you. All your PBX is already set up. That's done and done, right? Now, my dial plan is with CVP, right? And I can control every aspect of this dial plan via my scripting, whether that's dialing to an agent or a transfer internal or a transfer external or just an outbound dial to the PSTN. All of that can be controlled here. Likewise, I'm kind of getting us in this position of a mobile agent friendly architecture, right? I don't want to, and you see I cut out this line where Call Manager is integrated with our WFO, our call recording solution, because we were falling back to relying on built-in bridge. Again, no other contact center has built-in bridge functionality for recording today. Cool feature of Cisco, but let's get rid of it because it prevents us from thinking about things in the way we should, and we start to see Cisco, this solution as a dinosaur, only because of the way that we're using it. So let's get past that. Okay, and then you see one dial plan, we killed the built-in bridge, we got one-time configuration. So let me jump over to a demo and show you what this looks like and ultimately how I am really, again, similar to what I'm telling you all, I never really log into these components anymore because I don't have to, and you could be doing just the same. Let's take a look. Okay, so here's the call manager that sits behind my Webex Contact Center Enterprise. What I want to show you in here is that from a configuration standpoint, I actually didn't even do this configuration, and I never really touch it because it's so simplistic. And what I mean by that is, from a route pattern perspective, I have basically a route to my voicemail. I have a route into my IVR. Then I have a few patterns here that are used for dialing my agents on their UC extension or their PBX or WebRTC. So, really, again, we have 5 route patterns in here. From a partition calling search space perspective, I've got 1. Just kind of showing what that looks like real quick, just to prove that I'm being honest here. I have 1 partition, and that's it. Now, from a phone perspective, well, let's go to CTI route point. So when you want to build new transfer numbers today, that starts to build up and you need to submit a ticket to your help desk. Well, again, we have 1. We call this DNP or dialed number plan. This is already registered. We can set up a new transfer number without ever logging in to the UC side of our contact center enterprise. From a phone's perspective, this might be the one area where you actually do have to log into the UC if you don't have something that sits in front of this. But again, in a WebRTC world, in the mobile agent world that I'm kind of pushing us towards, even if you don't have a front end that does this automatically, and Portal could when you stand up or create a new agent, it can already basically create that new mobile agent for you and give it an extension. So those pieces are already there, but let's pretend like they're not. What I would do with this system is I would have my technology folks build out, pre-build me, however many extensions I could potentially need to use. All those CTI ports would just see here, like this LCP and RCP, they would just be built. So when I build a new agent, all I have to do inside Portal is plug in their extension. So you could pre-build, you could automate that on your own. It's not like APIs don't exist. There are plenty of options here to, again, alleviate you of having to actually log into this interface. But again, kind of key here is that all we have is these. So if I am logging into this, it's basically to build new phones. But you could get around that. Anyhow, incredibly simplistic. I do not ever have to worry about whether something is working or changes that go on in here, because there should never be a change. It was set up for me a year ago, and here I am today on the same exact configuration, and it's just not a problem. So let me show you how this works from an ICM side, or a contact center side, let's call it. So we have our dial number plan in here, and you can see, now you can customize this to your needs, right? I'm basically just matching anytime somebody dials a specific number of digits and triggering my script, right? That's all the more that it is. Now, I could put like a route in here, say for international calls, and associate it to international, and then, for example, I could control whether an agent can dial internationally by going into their agent desk settings and saying, I don't want you to be able to dial international, right? And so, again, like, these are features that aren't being used in most contact center enterprise deployments. And I think it's because most people don't even realize they're there, because they're so used to leveraging all of the facets that the unified communications part of the platform can provide. But ultimately, it makes things way more complex when, again, we want to be spending our time creating ROI for our business, not making things so difficult that chances are they work, but the next time we make it a change, everything breaks again, or we're not sure if it's going to work. So, long story short, this dial number plan now kicks off this script. From here, I do some sort of digit manipulation. If I'm going outbound, I can insert other logic here. Maybe I just built a new transfer number, so I could say, here we'll get the digits that the agent actually is called. If they call 555-555, that means it's a transfer to my billing group. So let's say go to script, and we'll toss in go to our billing queue, for example. So just as easy as that. I just added a new transfer number. Now I go out to Portal, I click my phone book, I add my 555-555 entry to display to my agents, and we're done. Again, that's all the more difficult it is. At any point in time, you can come in here, see what your scripting is doing, see the number of calls that are hitting it. Maybe something's failing. You have that visibility that you just don't get. And again, you have this visibility on other platforms. We're just treating contact center enterprise unfairly or improperly. So that's the dial number plan in a nutshell. And again, all my calls dial out the same exact way. So I'm not having to worry about whether an agent phone is going to behave differently versus my IVR, for example. It's all done the same exact way. The final thing, I talked about the customer the other day who had never tested sending calls outbound in the IVR, but suddenly they needed to override the CLI with the original ANI. Well, had they have been using this, all that they would have, let's pretend like this, we're going to override the CLI here, and all I needed to do here, actually we'll take this one, and we're going to take that, and we'll get rid of the comment here real quick. We're going to say that we want to override the CLI, and we're going to say we're going to instead insert call.user.customer phone, and we could do like an if statement here to say if we have that, then set it. Otherwise, set it to our default phone number, something like that. Yeah. Anyhow, so you could override the CLI easily from here. Again, what I'm calling out here is we now have one dial plan. It's all through our contact center. It's not through the UC. We've alleviated that. If I actually go back to this original piece here, we don't have to worry about E911. Our PBX is integrated to our E911. Everything is very straightforward and easy to use. Thank you for watching part 3 of our series Unlocking Webex CCE with TTEC Digital.